Good morning and welcome to another exciting time where we talk about the best of stories in the world of sports. It is Sports Central. And my name is Vladimir Kim. One key talking point this morning would all be about readiness. The Club World Cup taking center stage. We've seen some of the top sides, how they're performing, and we see others, how they're really performing. Yesterday, Inter somewhat somehow faltered their lines when many thought Inter Milan would stand tall like the big teams. Well, you have to give credit to the Mexican side because Sergio Ramos seemed to be a defense at 39 years of age, still standing tall, ended a draw against Montenegro. Well, for the conversation, we'll look at Diamond League perspective that could happen. It would be Toby Amoson returning to Diamond League action in Paris. And similarly, we'll talk about the world of tennis, what's happening with Alina Rybakina. 26th birthday it is, celebrating with a win. It would be part of all of this to look forward to. Well, the main talking point will center around football, Aqua United being part of it, a team being disbanded, management team being disbanded, not just Aqua United, four teams in Aqua Ibom and the Club World Cup. Richard David, good morning. So good to see you today.
Delighted to return because I'm quite happy about the news when I heard it earlier yesterday. I think late evening rather about the dissolution of those club sites, and many would also wonder what exactly it could actually mean for Aqua teams come next season. Will it be a fresh face or will it just be about rejigging, changing camps, changing this one, taking it to the another club side? We're looking forward to see how impactful it will be for those club sides come next season.
I'm looking forward to how impactful it could be for the club side come next season. But the interesting or shocking part of it would be that the chairman of Aqua United at the time last season, now the commissioner of sports in the state, Elder Paul Bassi, he's the one in charge of dissolution of management. And many might have thought, especially Aqua United, that would have been the first victim, but sadly he's not. He's the one in charge of their face and changing the narrative. Before I say that, good morning, so good to see you.
Well, I'm excited to be here talking about Kwara United and all of that. My main focus is on the Club World Cup, the first African team to get a victory. Mamelodi Sundowns
Yeah.
yesterday. I tried to follow the match for was having breaking in transmission and all of that because of the weather conditions right there in America. But at the end of it, they got the victory, much needed victory against a lowly rated team. And I'm sure that team is going to be the whooping boys of that group. But Mamelodi Sundowns could only score just one goal. Still shows that African teams need to do more when they face the rest of their counterparts from all over the world.
Well, funny thing now, the club World Cup is so difficult to see. Teams are so small, teams especially. But at the end of the day, to David, maybe we can start a conversation from a club World Cup before I get to talk about tennis and Diamond League and all of that, and return to football story. What has the club World Cup been for you? Ahead, funny Tina's perspective and ready. I want to hear from you.
Well, I think it's first of all, I want to, of course, look at it from the perspective of trying to, level quality of teams from different continents. I think that's the excitement that comes with it because it is one thing to actually say, yes, the league on this particular continent is the best. Maybe the CAF Champions League on the continent of Africa is the best. The UEFA Champions League for European teams is the best. But you'd always come to test your mettle at the FIFA Club World Cup. That's where we actually know. If you also look at from match day one across different groups, look at the very fact that African teams, maybe exception of the likes of Akali and Mamelodi Sundowns, were able to get victory yesterday as a whole. I think they haven't done enough in terms of the goal scoring chances they've actually gotten in this tournament. Alali got a whole lot of chances in the first game, but they couldn't convert it against Inter Miami. Same could be said for Mamelodi Sundowns last night as well. So it beckons to questions about the quality of these leagues across different continents. And it makes a whole lot of sense. It is just game one, so I won't be able to, of course, really talk about what the continent of Africa has, what the continent of Europe also has. Until we get to game two, game three, we'll definitely know whether or not they're ready for this particular battle.
Well, unfortunately, now has the club World Cup so far, based on the result in game one, really shown how, especially club sides, some of those club sides that not many people really think about in South America, how strong the South American league is. Look, I mean, we're talking about which club now? And Boca Juniors, River Plate, the Pulla draw against Portuguese side, Porto and Sporting.
So when you look at Boca Juniors
Porto and
against
Benfica, rather.
I think that match was one match that really tickled my fancy because when you look at Boca Juniors scoring two goals in just 16 minutes, but the Benfica delegation were shocked at what happened, and they had to come back from a goal down
After a red card for Boca
it
Juniors.
shows you that maybe these teams are good enough to test their mettle against the rest of the counterparts from the rest of the world because we've seen players like Memphis Depay going to Corinthians in Brazil. Group of players. If I watch the club work, I see some players I used to see in Europe. playing for all this side. River
Yeah.
played yesterday. The man Franco Mastantuano, who's going to Real Madrid next season. I saw him in action for River play yesterday. I was like, what a gem. The man is a completely quality player, and I want to see what he can do with Real Madrid.
I don't know if you saw a Chelsea player,
Estavio,
Estavio
Gustavio,
Willian,
yeah,
I watched
bagging
the
the man of
hits.
the match award.
absolutely.
He wasn't really impressive for me compared to Franco Mastantuano because you look at him, he didn't score a goal, didn't give any assist, but you look at
But
what he
you
was
have to
able to
give,
bring to the picture of play.
you have to give at least some credit to the young lad.
Well,
He's a young lad,
Palmeiras
barely
first,
18 years, 18 years of age.
Palmeiras first against a lesser opponent. We're talking about River Plate and Boca Juniors both facing against top class opponents. So when you compare that, I don't think Estavio really impressed me.
Well, Infantina, not easy to give impression in that direction, especially for youngsters that are doing quite well. I'm trying to get the numbers in this one. Maybe I can prove something to Infantina at the end of it. But it's basically what it is. Palmeiras and the lad, time ticking for me. Well, let's get a conversation and talk about the details of it now. Beginning with other sports, and afterwards we'll take back to football stories around the world. We begin with the Diamond League and the excitement that comes with it. In recent times, we really talked about it that Nigerian athletes are not really featuring in some of these Diamond League, but we hear Toby Amosu is returning to the Diamond League action in Paris. Well, Toby David, what do you make of this now?
I think it's good news, especially judging from the very fact that the last championship, she wasn't able to be a part of it as well. This will be her second Diamond League this year. The first one, of course, she was able to set another new record for herself in terms of course, how many seconds she used in finishing in the 100-meter hurdle. So it shows about the preparation of the lady Toby Amusen ahead of other international major, athletics competition. So I think it's not, of course, something surprising for me. I think what actually stands out in this upcoming Diamond League in Paris is the very fact that we'll have the best legs also participating. We talk about those who also took part in the Paris Olympics last year, also being part of this one as well. So it definitely means a two stiffer competition for the lady Toby Amusan will also ensure that she definitely runs against the best in preparation for whatever major international engagements would actually have to represent the shows of the country right here. So a good stuff for Toby Amusan. I want to see how all the athletics athletes, particularly from Nigerian contingents, also compete at top level in order to do something quite handy going forward.
Welcome back, still Sports Central. My name is Vladimir. Apologies for that swift interruption, but somewhat somehow we're back as if we never left, and the conversation continues. Before we left, it was all about Toby Amoso returning to the Diamond League action in Paris. Well, we'll move ahead and get to talk about the Berlin Tennis Open. Elena Rybakina ringing a 26th birthday with a croquet win in Berlin. When Fontina got a better of a croquet, a 6-3, 7-6 victory. A tough one it is, close call, but at the end of it, good win for her. But somewhat somehow, something piqued my interest in this particular one. The very fact that Elena Rybakina's stock seemed to be falling, ranked 11 currently in the world, considerably bad for a player of her quality.
Well, when you look at a little Burkina, I would say she's a victim of her own success because what she was able to do for herself in the last 2 years, it's not really what we've seen in 2025. 2025 has been different fortunes for her, and we've been able to see other names rise up to the occasion. But there's something I'm noticing in recent times. The names that started this season well, the likes of Madison Keys, who won a Grand Slam earlier into the year, talk about Naomi Osaka, won a 12 level competition. They are not really doing so well anymore. We've seen the likes of Igor Swiatek rising up to the party, Cody Kukugov also rising up to the party. So maybe we're going to see a little Burkina try to get herself back into contention because all roads leads to the WTF finals at the end of the year. You have to be seated in the top 10 to even qualify for that too. All the ladies now are currently looking for how to try to win games, win competition, win tour level competitions and Grand Slams to put themselves in the mix for the WTF finals at the end of the year.
A WTF final is that conversation, but quite early time to talk about it now. Well, we'll meet about mid-year now, so I
Just
still
like the
have lots
NBA
of
playoffs,
distance
we
anyway.
still have to do the job.
You still have to do the job and get your numbers right in order to qualify for it towards the end of the season. Talking about Vondrousova defeating Madison Keys in a Slam Champions showdown at Berlin. And similarly, Samsonova getting the better of Naomi Osaka in Berlin. Well, in the men's game, which David, I come to you on this one, talking about the Queen's Club. Carlos Alcaraz survived the scare to get a first opener in this particular one. Not typically after winning the French Open, he expected Carlos Alcaraz to be blazing and performing quite well, but this one, just a slow start for him.
Maybe hangover from the Roland Garros, victory. He's not participated in any other after the Roland Garros. So I'm also looking at, of course, Adiman Carlos Alcaraz experiencing some difficult start to life in that particular tournament. He's the top seeded. I think one fortunate thing would be the very fact that the man he defeated at the Roland Garros is not in the same competition with him. So that will also afford him the opportunity of facing all that maybe lesser opponents in terms of quality, or maybe lesser opponents in terms of the approach to the game. It will also help him a long way. Good stuff that he won the first game. The second game will be different from what we saw in the first game. Yes, slow start to life in the tournament was quite expected after that victory at the Roland Garros. But the man's quality never in doubt. I want to see him do well at the end of it.
Well, everyone wants to see Carlos Alcaraz do well at the end of it. It's a Queen's competition, a Queen's Club opener for him after that victory at the Roland Garros, getting better of Yannick Sinner. And now let's talk about Yannick Sinner then. Yannick Sinner is back to business according to a multiple observation. We're seeing the way he's playing at the Tara Woodman Open first match. This is a heartbreaking defeat to Carlos Alcaraz at Roland Garros final, where he won two sets, but Carlos Alcaraz had to rally back to win the last three sets anyway. But a 7-5, 6-3 triumph against home favorite Yannick Hoffman in Halle for him. Well, it's always going to be that conversation around the world of tennis. Some of the competition we're looking at in preparation for the big one, talking about Wimbledon, what would come afterwards, looking at the grass court, a season and competition taking place. And now we'll go on a quick break, and when we're back, the conversation continues, looking at football stories around the world. Part of the conversation would center around the list of the Super Falcons players invited by the coach of the side, Madogo, in preparation for the Portugal camp. Remember, The WAFCON is just by the corner. Don't go anywhere.
Get ready for the exciting showdown, the biggest names, the toughest competition, and the most thrilling moments. From the gridiron to hardwood, and from the pitch to the track. Join us for Sports Central, the most electric sports program on television, every weekday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Spectrum Television. Sports Central, your home for sports.
Welcome back to the Sports Central. My name is Vladimir Kim, the guy seated with me on the table of greatness. Ready for talking football stories around the world. They're going nowhere. And football, here we go. Let's begin the conversation from a WAFCON camp, rather from the Falcons, not WAFCON, Falcons camp, but somewhat somehow, no matter how you want to look at it, it has intent with WAFCON, the Women's African Cup of Nations. Well, we hear the NFF is expected to unveil the Super Falcons, a provisional squad for the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations in the coming days, following the submission of player lists by head coach Justin Magada, looking at the friendly against Portugal. Well, Trevor David, you've been clamoring for this list to come out, and we're looking forward to the list to be out. A list for the friendly out now to look forward to. Most of the players NFF are saying could be the same players featuring for the WAFCON.
I think, of course, the list will definitely come under intense scrutiny as well because if I watch the last friendly match the Super Falcons had, there were some names in that particular national team that's necessary to have at the football club. So at the national team camp, rather, one of such names is Francisca Odega. I think she's come of age, more like what we've seen with Ahmed Musa. She doesn't have the particular at the national team at the moment. So if it happens that she's included, yes, it's just provisional list. So we'll have the final list at the end of this as well, which in turn would also look at it before the WAFCON. Just like we said earlier, we didn't have a whole lot of preparations ahead of this particular WAFCON, but I just wanted to be optimistic that we can actually spring surprises. We're looking forward to attend to WAFCON, so it definitely shows you the history, the rich history we'll have at the WAFCON going even forward. The game against Portugal, a good preparatory game. We hear it would be next week, Monday. A good preparatory game ahead of the WAFCON. So all of this could also in turn contribute to the success that lies ahead for the Super
That
Falcons.
lies ahead for the Super Falcons of Nigeria. Everyone is crossing their fingers, looking at to what to happen. Even for the Nigerian side have won the title, looking forward to the 10th continental title when WAFCON begins. The Falcons are drawn in Group B when WAFCON begins. The Falcons are drawn in Group B, where they'll face Tunisia, Algeria, and Botswana. The campaign kicks off on July 16 against Tunisia at the Labi Azwal Stadium in Casablanca. Paul Bassi, we hear, they've dissolved management team of state football clubs. How many teams now we have in Aquarium? Four of them now. Dakada, Kwa United, Dakada. Which one then? Ibom Youth and Ibom Angels. Absolutely. Those are the state managed team. Or that's we have the likes of FC1 Rocket owned by another person, not a Aquarium state government. And we're getting to that point where the management of the team. Let's talk about it, Mvonitina now. That's not a Aqua United and state team. A picture you're seeing is so different from what we're talking about, just like the first one was different from the Falcons. Well, Mvonitina, let's talk about this now. Surprisingly, when people look at it, people would say, most people before the season ended clamored for Elder Paul Bassi to be removed from set, but he became the commissioner of sports in Akwa Ibom State, and now he's the one sitting on top of it to disband.
I just hope that that's what we're going to see next season because if
Get our Akwa Ibom team pictures and videos and visuals in that direction. Well, Utuma David, the man Swift has not been doing his job swiftly, but let's get to talk about what we need to do here now. Akwa United changing the management team of the different football teams. Elder Paul Bassi are doing that now. You think this? Some fun earlier said, knowing fully well that he's in charge of, he was in charge of the pinnacle of football. And
Very good decision to dissolve, of course, the administrative team, however you want to look at it, of that respective football club, because however you want to look at it, you just concluded the season haven't been so good for 5 teams. I mean, cut across different leagues for Dakar FC, they escaped relegation by the Whiskers. The last game of the match day was where they escaped relegation. So all the results also went in their favor. And that's why they were able to, of course, maintain their status in the end, just like we discussed about it yesterday. Same course could also be said for other teams. For Angels, yes, they have not been relegated this time around. Good, they have maintained their status. What happens for Fire United? We're actually looking at five states own teams, having 2 teams in the end before next season. But now at the moment, we do not have anyone. So by every standard practice, I also think it's good. But then many will also ask questions, particularly now that we have this particular decision being made, would the next board that would, of course, constitute all of these club sides come in quite handy to help the team, get back their status in the league. We've actually seen this happen over time. Most times we get to see, this space is being recycled, brought back, maybe changes in football clubs. Take this one to the next club, take this one back to the next club. We would definitely see fresh faces, serious-minded faces coming on to change the status of the league. I think that's what I'm most concerned about. But going forward, we're looking forward to see what the Minister of the Minister of Sports rather will do at the moment to further see how these teams, especially Akwa United and Dakar FC, gain back their status in the MPFL. I think it will be a very good step forward.
Well, unfortunately, one conversation that comes to mind is that two clubs from the same owner can be in the Nigerian Premier Football League any longer. So while it's David expecting Akwa United and Dakar to be back, well, they've been there. They've not been relegated. The moment they're relegated, they can't come because you can't say, okay, because they've been there, so they have to drop. But there are rules that trying to stringent rules, just like what we're having in Europe, where they look at certain competition having similar owners and of having 2 clubs in that competition. For fairness of sport. So most likely now, you are Elder Paul Bassi. Where do you pay attention to now? Is it Akwa United coming back to the Nigerian Premier Football League? What happens to Dakar? What happens to Ibom Youth and the rest of them?
Well, I would say with this new rule, I didn't hear about the rule, so it's my first time. But I feel Akwa United have the pedigree to be the team. They should be the flag bearer of football in the Akwa Ibom States now because they've won the President FA Cup for I think multiple times. They've won the league as well once, so they have the pedigree as compared to Dakar United. So maybe Dakar United can be used as a feeders team, or still at least.
Yeah, originally Dakar was a feeder team.
Exactly.
They used to be called Aqua Starlets. So when they came to the Nigerian Premier Football League,
we can go back to that particular,
and reducing expenditure for the government, just like what we're having with Beyond Limit. Remember last season, Beyond Limit finished top, but couldn't play in the MPFL. Absolutely, they had to sell that slot back to Heartland Football Club. Well, it's basically what it is. And quickly, let's continue the conversation. Looking at a Nigerian international winger, we're talking about Moses Simon of Nantes. We hear he's set to join Paris FC. Well, when you talk about Paris FC, we talk about David, not the biggest of teams when it has to do with French League on. Well, Paris FC and Nantes have agreed a deal for the winger, and I hear some humongous amount of money in that direction. I hear he could be earning about 300,000 euros a week. Good for him. He spared his dues, many would say.
Good for him. He just got promoted to League One from the League Two, of course, and then we also look at both assignment, not the club sides. Just go there, go spend some season with the football club. I do not know how they will be able to survive relegation at the end of the season, because most times we see club sides being promoted from the second tier to the first tier and not being able to maintain their status in the league. But I think it's good financially. There is improvement from it, so that's what he's earning at times. Why not go to Paris FC and make some money?
I've already seen the man delving into football administration as well. He has
Yeah.
an academy which produced the man who, what's his name now, Benjamin Fredericks.
Yeah, who played for the national team.
So that's something that maybe, but I'm shocked with that amount, 300 1,000 euros a week.
Yeah.
That's what some players are struggling to get at Manchester United.
That's really big for Party FC.
Yeah, and new promoted side. I would like to double
Well,
check those figures though.
yeah, okay. Meaning Paris Saint Germain and not the capital of France anyway. I agree, but nearly promoted club. We don't know what gets to happen, but in the coming days we know the facts and the details that comes with. But absolutely, but basically what we're hearing in the news is that it could amount to that amount of money. Knowing football, lots of goods and could also change in the cost of it. And let's move ahead and talk about a talking point in the world of football. I'm moving to Europe now. It would be the Premier League fixture, the opener of it. Well, before the show, let me bring a little expo. We're diving funny tonight. We're really complaining about Manchester United's fixtures, top fixtures for them. But the opener for me in the Premier League season, the 2025-2026 season, is that Arsenal Football Club will open against Ruben Amorim, Manchester United. Well, to David funny tonight, let's talk about what we talked before the show. And now, what do you make of the fixture so far?
Well, for me, I think I do not think it's a case of these fixtures being intentionally programmed the way it is. Basically, I think it just happened.
It's an AI generated.
Yeah, and the AI generated fixture that you of course pay Manchester United and Arsenal together. I think what they would do definitely that would be manually would be the dates for these fixtures, which would also in turn change as regards their European engagement at the course of it. I think it's a good match to look forward to. Arguably the biggest game of the first match where we match day one of the Premier League season. So
Quite deserving. A big game, a rivalry, quite deserving for a first match of the season.
very tough as well.
Absolutely.
Because before the start of the season, we'll definitely bring in some players. So this would also be a game to test the man's mettle ahead of what to expect as the season also goes by.
Also a test for Mikel Arteta as well, because a lot of people will be talking about Ruben Amorim, but Mikel Arteta next season for me, I'm looking at that season as a make or mark season for Mikel Arteta. If he fails to win a trophy, come on, it's time to get serious consideration and talks about Mikel Arteta's success at Arsenal Football Club.
Let's look at the Premier League fixture we have and the details that comes with it, who's playing who. The Premier League fixture, 2025-2026 season. Let's have a view of the fixture. Well, part of the conversation is that the kickoff would be on August 16th, and even for that, 2025, and concludes on May 24th, 2026. Well, Friday, 15 August, Liverpool will take on the likes of AFC Bournemouth, according to reports we're getting. On Saturday, definitely would be Aston Villa against Newcastle United, Brighton and Hove Albion against Fulham, Nottingham Forest against Brentford, and Sunderland against West Ham United, Tottenham Hotspur against Burnley, Wolverhampton Wanderers against Manchester City. On Sunday, 17 August, a fixture will be Chelsea against Crystal Palace and Manchester United against Arsenal also, showing class and dominance in this. A top fixture to talk about. And Monday night football definitely will be Leeds United against Everton Football Club. And it continues even further to next week and next week and next week. So the Premier League action set to be back. Always going to be enticing. But one last conversation around this before we move on to talk about other things. What being now the newly promoted side? Last season we saw all the newly promoted side beaten. It seemed to be back-to-back season it's happened for them and showing how difficult the Premier League is. So when you look at the newly promoted side, the likes of Sunderland, which of them now? What are the expectations? Leeds United, absolutely. What are the expectations for them?
Well, very difficult pick to of course, talk about right here because I do not know what to expect from them. Usually, when you have newly promoted sides like this, they sign a whole lot of players before the start of the new season.
Especially if you won the playoffs.
Absolutely. Sunderland already left Jude Bellingham, the brother of Jude Bellingham, leave Borussia Dortmund, so they'll definitely sign his replacement. I'm just glad that I'll see the Stadium of Light back now in the Premier League. I've always been a keen admirer of Sunderland, basically due to the name Stadium of Light. There's another stadium I'm missing at the moment, which is the Britannia Stadium, Stoke City. I don't think they're even in the Premier League Championship.
Oh, they're in the Championship.
The Championship. So I do not know. Maybe they will return back next season. But I'm quite delighted. Sunderland, Leeds United, two experienced sides in the Premier League. I just wish this maintain their status. I can't predict at the moment.
We've our biggest expectation looking forward to the fixtures that's coming in the Premier League returning.
Looking Parker coming back with Burnley, he's known to do so well in the Championship. In fact, he's brought two teams back to back.
Always disappointing in the Premier League.
Now let's see what happens with Burnley.
And let's see what happens with Burnley. Scott Parker, such a name to mention. We move straight to the Club World Cup. Yesterday we saw Inter Milan being held by FC Monterrey of Mexico, a World Club Cup opener for them. How disappointing, many would say. It goes back to the conversation we talked about and the likes of Borussia Dortmund pulling a draw against Fluminense as Bellingham's brother debut in this one. Well, Ultimate David, pick a start in this one now. Yesterday's game at the top walk of what we've seen. Inter Milan pulling a draw against a top side, Monterrey, in that direction.
Well, I think the game against Inter Milan and Monterrey catch my fancy because I was actually looking to see Sergio Ramos in his usual self, and yesterday he did not disappoint. He scored the first goal of the match, VAR ahead around there. It certainly shows you that even at the age of 39, the man has still got some dominant aerial duels. Those above other players who scored that goal. Lautaro Martinez had to, of course, restore parity to the Inter Milan side, and they couldn't score any goal after that. So it definitely shows you that Monterrey is also a top quality side, just like we talked about earlier. Most times when you get to see European teams, you would definitely want to talk about the very fact that they've got quality other teams that are not even in Europe.
Yeah.
But these games also provide the opportunity to look at the very fact that the gap in quality is not that big enough, just like we've seen from other games.
Quite disappointing for Inter Milan here.
Yes, disappointing. Naturally, we would expect Inter Milan to dominate this game
Against the Mexican side. Not many people would give a Mexican side much credit at the end of
You
it.
would also put into perspective that what's that? Simone Inzaghi left the side. New
It doesn't matter. It's Inter Milan against Monterrey.
The former manager was managing for Parma before, so maybe he's brought the Parma mentality to Inter Milan.
Well, I wouldn't want to put it on. I wouldn't want to. But quite disappointing from a management point of view in this reaction. But one talking point around the club walk up because other games took place. Mamelodi Sundowns are beating Ulsan HDFC of South Korea. Unfortunately, at this one pointing, but some of these Asian sides are decent. Remember which club now? I think the Japanese side had beaten Cristiano Ronaldo's El Nassr out of the Asian Cup. So you can't really say there are small sides, no matter how have some money spent around it. So we're talking about Ulsan Mamelodi Sundown first win for African side.
Japanese league is better than the South Korean league by all ramifications. The South Korean teams, look at the match, look at the statistics of that particular match. You see the Mamelodi Sundowns were in charge, dominant throughout the match, but couldn't score goals. So that's my problem. Because when I look at that group, I look at the other teams in that particular group, they have the Ulsan side for dinner. So when the Mamelodi Sundowns could only win by 1 goal to 0, it shows you that maybe they're not just good enough to progress from that group. But good win for Africa, good win for Mamelodi Sundowns.
Well, in the coming days, we got to see if they're good enough to progress from the group. Flamengo defeated Tunis, another African side, 2-0. Fluminense pulled a draw against Borussia Dortmund, a goalless draw, and River Plate smashed Urawa Reds of Japan 3-1. I'm talking about River Plate that plays club football. They play in Argentina. Argentine side has been absolutely fantastic, and Brazilian side in this competition. We hear that Bernardo Silva has been named new Man City captain. Well, after Kevin De Bruyne left the side to Napoli. So it's Bernardo Silva being the captain of the side now. Real Madrid are preparing to face Al Hilal. The first one for them, Xavi Alonso, the coach of the side, will be looking forward to do the magic with the side as many call Real Madrid the biggest club in world football. Well, here's the Club World Cup. Let's see if they'll be able to keep the disappointment of the Champions League and stand tall in the Club World Cup against Al Hilal, the top side from the Saudi League. Kylian Mbappe also missed training because of fever. We do not know if we'll get to start this one or not. Manchester City will take on why that Casablanca, another African side. Many thinking it could be an easy game for Pep Guardiola's side. We'll see what happens. Well, from the world of transfer, Bayern Munich are looking forward to signing Nico Williams, Berecheze, among top list of players needed. And Song's decision set to be delayed until after Sports Asia at all. Well, to be David, I ask you now, what is he deciding on?
Above 30 years of age at the moment. So maybe it's also time for Tottenham Hotspur to cash in the player because he's aging. He will not come actually costly if he stays past the season and Saudi club doesn't come back next season. So they're actually looking whether to sell the man off or maybe give him a new contract because he has just 1 season left in his current deal with Sports.
1 season left in his current deal with Sports. One last conversation before we close. Filippo Inzaghi joins Palermo after Pisa promotion. Filippo, not Simeone. The brother to Simeone Inzaghi. Filippo played where? What's the one that played at? Yeah, Filippo played at AC Milan. Simeone played at Lazio. Absolutely.
The man is always promoted their team from Serie B to Serie A, then go back to another team to Serie B.
Well, maybe that's his calling. You never can tell. Manchester United, we hear eyeing Hudson-Odoi. Unfortunately, that doesn't like this. But here we draw the curtain in today's edition of Sports Central. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Vladek, and the guys doing the magic for me. To Devin Fanitina are doing the magic for me. Thank you for being a part of it. Tomorrow is another day when we return. The conversation continues. Thank you.